Alex's hand closed around her throat, squeezing tightly. She knew that her worst fears had come true. "Don't you dare embarrass me," he hissed, his grip tightening with each word. "You belong to me now, and you will behave accordingly." Erimma was a cheerful 20-year-old girl living with her family in the bustling mainland of Lagos State, Nigeria. In their modest two-bedroom apartment, she shared a room with her siblings, while her parents occupied the other. Her father, Mr. Okpanko, was a hard-working trader at the famous Alaba market. Despite the challenges, he labored tirelessly to provide for his family. One sunny morning, as Erimma woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside her window, she stretched and yawned, ready to face the day. She glanced at the clock and realized it was already past sunrise. "Time to wake everyone," she called out to her siblings, gently shaking them awake. Uzoma, her younger brother, grumbled as he rubbed his eyes. "Do we have to? I was having such a good dream." Erimma chuckled. "Come on, Uzoma, Dad will be up soon, and you know he doesn't like it when we are late for breakfast." With a collective groan, the siblings dragged themselves out of bed and headed to the kitchen, where their mother, Mrs. Okpanko, was already busy preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Mama," Erimma greeted, wrapping her arms around her mother in a warm hug. "Good morning, my dear," Mrs. Okpanko replied, returning the embrace. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, Mama," Erimma nodded, "but I had the strangest dream last night. I was flying over the city like a bird." Her mother chuckled. "Sounds like an adventure dream. Maybe it's a sign of good things to come." As they sat down to eat, Mr. Okpanko joined them at the table, his face tired but determined. "Another day, another opportunity to make our dreams a reality," he said, offering a smile to his family. After breakfast, Erimma helped her mother with the dishes before getting ready for the day ahead. She glanced at the calendar on the wall and remembered that it was market day for her father. "Can I come with you to the market today, Dad?" she asked eagerly. Mr. Okpanko paused, considering her request. I suppose you could use a break from the routine. All right, you can come along, but remember to stay close and watch your step. The market can be quite chaotic." Erimma beamed with excitement, grateful for the chance to spend time with her father outside of their small apartment. As they made their way to the market, she marveled at the sights and sounds of the bustling city, feeling a sense of adventure stirring within her. At the market, Erimma helped her father arrange his goods on the makeshift stall, chatting with customers and vendors alike. She watched in as her father negotiated prices and made sales, his determination and resilience shining through despite the challenges he faced. As the day wore on, Erimma couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in her family's hard work and perseverance. They may not have much, but they had each other, and that was enough to make them feel rich in love and unity. As they packed up the store and headed home at the end of the day, Erimma felt a newfound sense of purpose stirring within her. She may not know what the future held, but she was determined to face it head on, just like her parents had taught her. And so, as the sun set over the bustling city of Lagos, Erimma's adventure had only just begun. Despite graduating from high school 4 years ago, Erimma's dream of attending university remained just like a dream. Her parents, despite their hard work, couldn't afford to send her to school. Determined to make something of herself and help her family, Erimma found a job as a sales girl. Her job paid very little, barely enough to cover her own expenses, let alone contribute significantly to her family's needs or save for university. Yet, Erimma refused to give up. She knew that every naira she earned could make a difference, no matter how small. One evening, as Erimma returned home from another long day at work, she couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment and envy that gnawed at her heart. Seeing her friends from high school thriving in their studies and careers only intensified her longing for a better future. Sitting at the dinner table with her family, Erimma's mind wandered as her siblings chattered excitedly about their day. She felt a pang of guilt for not being able to provide them with the same opportunities her friends had. "Is something bothering you, Erimma?" her mother asked, noticing the sadness in her daughter's eyes. Erimma forced a smile. "Oh, it's nothing, Mama. Just tired from work, that's all." But her mother knew better. "You have been working so hard, my dear. We are proud of you, you know." Erimma nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "I know, Mama. I just wish I could do more for all of us." Her father reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You are doing more than enough, Erimma. We appreciate everything you are doing for the family." Despite her family's words of encouragement, Erimma couldn't shake off the feeling of inadequacy that weighed heavily on her heart. She longed for the opportunity to pursue her dreams and make her parents proud. That night, as Erimma lay in bed, she made a silent vow to herself. She would not let her circumstances define her. She would keep pushing, keep striving, until she found a way to make her dreams a reality. And so, day after day, Erimma continued to work tirelessly, her determination unwavering in the face of adversity. Though the road ahead was uncertain, she refused to give up hope, for Erimma knew that with perseverance and faith, anything was possible. And one day, she believed she could seize the opportunity to go back to school and chase her dreams with all her heart. After another long day at work, Erimma joined her father at his shop to help him pack up for the day. As they walked home together, the weight of their struggles hung heavy in the air. "Daddy," Erimma began hesitantly, "why do we have to suffer like this? Why can't things be easier for us?" Mr. Okpanko sighed, his shoulders slumping with weariness. "Oh, my dear Erimma, if only life were that simple. But you see, sometimes we don't get to choose the path we walk. All we can do is to keep moving forward, no matter how tough the journey may be." Erimma listened intently as her father spoke, his words carrying the weight of experience and resilience. She had always admired his strength and determination, even in the face of adversity. "Daddy, what do you mean?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Mr. Okpanko paused, his gaze distant as memories flooded his mind. "You see, Erimma, there was a time when I was a wealthy man with a thriving business in the heart of Lagos. I had a big plaza in the Lagos big market, filled with goods and merchandise. Erimma's eyes widened with surprise. She had never heard this story before. But one day, her father continued, his voice trembling slightly. I received a call that changed everything. My plaza was on fire. Erimma, everything I had worked for so hard, gone in one instant. Not even a pin was left behind. Erimma's heart ached for her father as she listened to his tale of loss and devastation. She couldn't imagine the pain he must have felt, losing everything he had worked so hard to build. We had to start all over again from scratch. Mr. Okwanko continued, his voice filled with determination. But we didn't give up, Erimma. We refused to let despair consume us. We picked ourselves up and kept moving forward, one step at a time. Erimma felt a surge of pride and admiration for her father as she listened to his words of wisdom. Despite facing unimaginable hardships, he had never lost hope. Daddy, I'm sorry you had to go through all that, she said softly, squeezing his hand in reassurance. Mr. Okpanko smiled, a twinkle of pride in his eyes. Don't be sorry, my dear. It's all part of life's journey. And through it all, we have learned to appreciate the simple joys, the moments of love and togetherness that money can't buy. As they walked on in companionable silence, Erimma felt a newfound sense of strength and resolve stirring within her. She may not have all the answers, but she knew that as long as she had her family by her side, she could face whatever challenges life threw her way. And so, with her father's words of wisdom echoing in her heart, Erimma walked on, her spirit renewed and her determination stronger than ever before. For she knew that no matter how dark the night may seem, there was always a glimmer of hope waiting to light the way. One afternoon, as Erimma relaxed at home on her day off from work, she was surprised to see her brother Uzoma return from school earlier than usual. His usual cheerful face was clouded with sadness, and Erimma could tell that something was wrong. What's the matter, Uzoma? She asked, concern etched in her voice. Uzoma sighed heavily, his shoulders slumped with disappointment. I was sent home from school today, Erimma, he confessed. I haven't paid my school fees or my WAEC exam fees. Dad said there is no money. Erimma's heart sank as she listened to her brother's words. She knew how much Uzoma had been looking forward to writing his WAEC exams, a milestone that would open doors to countless opportunities. Don't worry, Uzoma, Erimma said softly, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. I will figure things out. You will write your exams, I promise. Uzoma's eyes widened in surprise. But how, Erimma? We don't have enough money. Erimma took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she knew she had to do. How much do you need? She asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil raging within her. 76,000 naira, Uzoma replied, his voice trembling with emotion. Erimma felt a knot form in her stomach as she realized the enormity of the task ahead. But she refused to let fear hold her back. She had made a promise to her brother, and she would do whatever it took to keep it. Rummaging through her belongings, Erimma retrieved her savings, counting the money with trembling hands. To her dismay, she realized that she only had 56,000 naira, a shortfall of 20,000 naira. Taking a deep breath, Erimma made a decision. She would use her savings to cover as much of Uzoma's fees as she could, and she would make up the rest within her next paycheck. "Here, Uzoma," she said, handing him the money. "It's not enough, but it's a start. I will give you the rest as soon as I can." Uzoma's eyes brimmed with tears as he embraced his sister tightly. "Thank you, Erimma," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "You are the best sister anyone could ask for." The next day, as Erimma returned from work, she handed Uzoma the remaining 20,000 naira, her heart swelling with pride as she watched the gratitude and relief wash over her brother's face. Her family gathered around, expressing their heartfelt thanks to Erimma for her selfless sacrifice. Though they faced many challenges, they knew that as long as they had each other, they could overcome anything life threw their way. As Erimma looked around at the faces of her loved ones, she knew that her sacrifice had been worth it. For in that moment, she realized that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in the bonds of family and the strength of love. As days turned into weeks, Erimma continued to work tirelessly, her determination unwavering despite the challenges that life threw her way. She juggled her job, her responsibilities at home, and the burden of supporting her family with grace and strength beyond her years. But then, tragedy struck. One evening, as Ufoma, Erimma's mother, returned home from work and began preparing dinner with her children, their peaceful evening was shattered by a sudden commotion outside their home. "Mama Erimma, Mama Erimma, Mama Erimma," the voices cried out in alarm. Ufoma rushed outside to see what was happening. Her heart pounding with fear. To her horror, she saw a group of people carrying Mr. Okpanko, her husband, towards their home. His usually vibrant face was pale and lifeless, and her heart clenched with dread. "What happened?" she demanded, her voice trembling with fear. The people explained that Mr. Okpanko had collapsed in the market, and despite their best efforts, they couldn't revive him. Ufoma's world shattered in an instant as she realized that her husband was gone. She screamed his name, trying to shake him awake, but he remained still and silent, his eyes closed forever. Inside the house, the children heard their mother's cries and rushed to her side, their hearts pounding with fear and disbelief. They tried to wake their father, calling out to him in desperation, but he didn't respond. Erimma, on her way home from work, noticed the somber mood in her compound and felt a sense of foreboding wash over her. As she approached her family, she saw her mother and siblings huddled together, their faces contorted with grief. "What happened?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother turned to her, tears streaming down her face. "It's your father, Erimma," she choked out. "He's gone." Erimma's heart stopped as the weight of her mother's words sank in. Her father, the pillar of their family, was no more. She rushed to his side, her hands shaking as she tried to wake him up, promising to work even harder if he would just wake up. But it was of no use. Mr. Okpanko was gone, leaving behind a shattered family and a community plunged into mourning. Neighbors gathered around, offering words of sympathy and comfort, but their words fell on deaf ears as the family grappled with the enormity of their loss. In the days that followed, Erimma and her family leaned on each other for support, drawing strength from their love and unity in the face of adversity. Though their hearts were heavy with grief, they knew that together they would find a way to honor their father's memory and carry on his legacy of resilience and determination. After the loss of Mr. Okpanko, the family faced many difficult days. With the help of their friends and relatives, they gave him a respectful burial and returned to the city to rebuild their lives. Erimma, always the pillar of strength for her family, stayed by her mother's side, offering comfort and support in their time of grief. Months passed, and as the family tried to piece their lives back together, they faced yet another setback. Erimma, eager to resume her job and contribute to her family's finances, was devastated to learn that she had been replaced. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded with her boss to reconsider, but he remained unmoved by her pleas. Heartbroken, Erimma returned home to break the news to her family. Her mother, Ufoma, gathered her children close, her heart heavy with worry. "Don't lose hope, my dear," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "We will find a way through this together." But their troubles were far from over. The next morning, a loud knock on their door jolted them awake from their restless sleep. It was their landlord, his face twisted with anger as he demanded the rent payment. Their hearts sank as they realized that their rent had expired the same month their father had passed away. It had been 3 months since his death, and they still didn't have the money to pay. Ufoma pleaded with the landlord for mercy, her voice choked with tears. "Please, sir, have pity on us," she begged. "We are still grieving the loss of my husband. Give us a little more time and we'll find a way to pay." The landlord's expression softened slightly at Ufoma's words, but his resolve remained firm. "Tell me the exact date you will have the money," he demanded, his voice stern. Erimma stepped forward, her chin held high, despite the fear and uncertainty gnawing at her insides. "Next month, sir," she said, her voice steady. "By the end of next month, we'll have the rent ready for you." With a curt nod, the landlord turned and left, leaving the family to grapple with the daunting task ahead. Ufoma collapsed into tears, her children gathering around her to offer comfort and reassurance. Erimma wrapped her arms around her mother, her heart heavy with worry but determined to stay strong for her family. "We will find a way, Mama," she whispered, her voice filled with conviction. "We will get through this together, no matter what." Determined to find a way to raise the rent money for their home, Erimma sought out a new job with the help of their neighbor. She found a work as a cleaner in the mornings and supplemented her income by frying akara bean cakes in the evenings. Every day, Erimma worked tirelessly, scrubbing floors and frying akara with skill and determination. She knew that every penny she earned brought her family one step closer to keeping a roof over their heads. One evening, as Erimma tended to her frying pan in front of their compound, a sleek car pulled up and stopped in front of her. Startled, Erimma rushed over to see what the driver wanted. "Give me akara worth 2,000 naira and bread worth 1,000 naira," the man in the car said, his voice commanding. Erimma's heart fluttered with excitement, and she quickly packed his order, eager to make a sale. She handed the food to the man, who in turn gave her some money. As Erimma counted the money, her eyes widened in disbelief. The man had given her 5,000 naira instead of the 3,000 naira she was owed. "Wait, sir," Erimma called out, her heart racing as she realized the mistake. "You overpaid me. It's only 3,000 naira." The man smiled warmly at her, his eyes twinkling with kindness. "I know," he replied. "Consider it a tip for your hard work and dedication." Erimma's heart swelled with gratitude, and she thanked the man profusely for his generosity. She watched as he drove off into the night, his act of kindness leaving a lasting impression on her heart. After finishing her evening sales, Erimma couldn't stop talking about the stranger who had shown her such unexpected kindness. She marveled at the way a simple act of generosity had brightened her day and lifted her spirits, reminding her that even in the darkest of times, there is still goodness and light to be found in the world. As she tucked herself into bed that night, Erimma felt a renewed sense of hope and determination coursing through her veins. With the memory of the stranger's kindness guiding her, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage, strength, and unwavering faith in the goodness of humanity. The following day, just as Erimma was setting up her frying station, the man from the sleek car returned. Like clockwork, he placed his order for bean cakes and bread, his presence becoming a familiar sight in Erimma's daily routine. Each time he visited, he would give Erimma a generous tip, his smile warm and his demeanor kind. Erimma found herself looking forward to his visits, grateful for the extra money and the company. One day, as Erimma handed him his order, she mustered the courage to strike up a conversation. "Excuse me, sir," she began attentively. "I was just wondering, who are you?" The man smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners with amusement. "My name is Alex," he replied simply, "just a regular guy who enjoys good food and good company." But Erimma couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to Alex than met the eye. There was an air of mystery about him, a sense that he was hiding something beneath his charming facade. As their conversation began more frequent, Erimma couldn't help but wonder about Alex's life outside of their brief encounters. Who was he, really, and what was he doing here? Unknown to Erimma, Alex harbored secrets of his own. He was the son of a wealthy entrepreneur, his family's fortune built on a vast empire of businesses both in Nigeria and abroad. But despite his privileged upbringing, Alex was the proverbial black sheep of the family. His father had refused to give him any assets until he settled down and got married, a prospect that Alex found distasteful. Determined to live life on his own terms, Alex embarked on a quest to find a woman he could manipulate into marriage, someone who would give him the control he craved without the burden of love or affection. And so, when he stumbled upon Erimma, a humble girl from the streets, Alex saw an opportunity. He kept his true intentions hidden, masquerading as a friendly customer while secretly plotting to make Erimma his unwitting pawn in his game of deception. As their interaction continued, Erimma couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something off about Alex. Despite his charm and generosity, there was a darkness lurking beneath the surface, a sense that he was not to be trusted. But for now, Erimma pushed aside her doubts, content to enjoy Alex's company and the extra money he brought with him. Little did she know, the true nature of their relationship would soon be revealed, with far-reaching consequences for them both. As the deadline set by the landlord loomed closer, Erimma's anxiety reached new heights. Despite her tireless efforts, she still hadn't been able to raise the rent money, and the thought of losing their home weighed heavily on her heart. Unable to sleep that night, Erimma tossed and turned, her thoughts consumed by worry and fear. Then, in the quiet of the night, a thought suddenly struck her. What if she asked Alex for help? The next day, as Alex returned once again to buy bean cakes and bread, Erimma mustered up the courage to confide in him. Alex, she began, I need your help. We are in danger of losing our home, and I don't know what to do. Alex smiled, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Of course, Erimma, I will help you, but on one condition. Erimma's heart skipped a beat as she waited anxiously for Alex to reveal his condition. What is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex leaned in closer, his expression serious. Marry me, he said simply, and I will take care of everything for you and for your family. Erimma's eyes widened in shock at Alex's proposal. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Marry him, a man she barely knew, who had appeared out of nowhere with offers of help and generosity. Why? She asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. But Alex simply shrugged, his smile never faltering. Does it matter? He replied. All that matters is that I can help you, Erimma. Unless, of course, you don't want my help. Erimma felt her head spinning as she struggled to process Alex's words. If she refused his offer, they would lose their home and be forced to face an uncertain future. But if she agreed to marry him, she would be entering into a marriage of convenience with a man she didn't love or even know. As Alex drove away that evening, leaving Erimma to grapple with her decision, she knew that she faced an impossible choice. She couldn't sleep that night, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead and the consequences of her decisions. In the darkness of her room, Erimma prayed for guidance, searching for the strength and wisdom to make the right choice for herself and for her family. But as the night wore on, she realized that there were no easy answers, only difficult decisions and the courage to face them head on. The next day, Alex was absent, leaving Erimma to wrestle with her decision in solitude. He had left her his business card, a tangible reminder of the choice she was about to make, along with a stern warning not to call unless she was ready to say yes. Feeling torn and anxious, Erimma reached out to her best friend Anna, seeking advice and solace. With a heavy heart, she confided in Anna about Alex's proposal and the overwhelming pressure she felt to accept it for the sake of her family. Anna listened intently, her brow furrowed with concern. Erimma, you can't just marry someone you barely know, she urged. What about love? What about happiness? But Erimma, her mind already made up, couldn't shake off the weight of responsibility that lay heavy on her shoulders. Anna, I don't have a choice, she replied sadly. My family needs me, and this might be the only way to save our home. Anna's heart ached for her friend, knowing the difficult decision she was about to make. But despite her protests, Erimma remained resolute in her decision, determined to sacrifice her own happiness for the sake of her family. That night, with a heavy heart and trembling hands, Erimma dialed Alex's number, her stomach churning with nerves. I'm ready, she whispered into the phone, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex's response was immediate, his voice filled with satisfaction. You have made the right choice, Erimma, he said smugly. I will take care of everything. The following day, Alex returned to make his intention known to Erimma's mother, Ufoma. As he left, Ufoma pulled Erimma aside, her eyes filled with concern and disappointment. Why didn't you tell me about this? She demanded, her voice tinged with hurt. Do you even like this man? Or are you just going along with it because of her family situation? Erimma felt a pang of guilt at her mother's words, but she pushed aside her doubt, clinging to the belief that she was doing what was best for her family. I love Alex, Mama, she replied, her voice unsteady but determined. And he loves me too. Everything will be fine, you will see. But Ofoma, wise to the ways of the world, saw through her daughter's facade. Erimma, marriage is a serious commitment, she cautioned. Don't rush into it without thinking about the consequences. Erimma nodded, her heart heavy with uncertainty, but her resolve unwavering. I won't, Mama, she promised. I will make sure everything works out for the best. As the wedding day approached, preparations kicked into high gear, with Anna by Erimma's side every step of the way. Erimma felt a mix of emotions, excitement at the thought of starting a new chapter in her life, but also a gnawing sense of unease that she couldn't quite shake off. Meanwhile, Alex remained aloof, his presence felt only through the occasional transfer of money to Erimma's family. Despite his apparent generosity, Erimma couldn't help but feel a sense of disquiet about their impending marriage. In the days leading up to the marriage, Alex went above and beyond to ensure Erimma's family's comfort and security. He rented a spacious four-room apartment for them in the heart of Lagos, started a business for Ufoma, and sent her siblings to the best schools money can afford. Erimma couldn't deny that her family's newfound prosperity brought her a sense of happiness, but deep down, she knew that it came at a steep price. On the day of the wedding, Erimma plastered on a smile and played the part of the blushing bride, even though her heart was heavy with doubt and regret. Their family and friends gathered to celebrate the union, their cheers masking the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. But as the ceremony progressed, Erimma's facade began to crack. Overwhelmed by the weight of her decision, she rushed to the restroom to escape the suffocating pressure. Alone in the quiet sanctuary of the restroom, Erimma allowed herself to succumb to her tears, her regret washing over her like a tidal wave. She cursed herself for making such a rash decision, for sacrificing her own happiness for the sake of her family's security. But before she could gather herself, Alex's icy voice cut through the silence, sending a chill down her spine. "Why did you run off like that?" he demanded, his tone sharp and menacing. Erimma remained silent, her heart pounding with fear as she braced herself for his wrath. But when Alex's hand closed around her throat, squeezing tightly, she knew that her worst fears had come true. "Don't you dare embarrass me," he hissed, his grip tightening with each word. "You belong to me now, and you will behave accordingly." With tears streaming down her face, Erimma nodded obediently, her spirit broken by the cruel reality of her situation. She wiped away her tears, forced a smile onto her trembling lips, and returned to the reception, knowing that she had sealed her fate with a single irreversible decision. As the wedding festivities continued around her, Erimma couldn't shake off the feeling that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. But with her future now bound to Alex's, there was no turning back, no escape from the prison of her own making. After the lavish wedding, Erimma found herself thrust into a new life, a life that felt more like a prison than the happily ever after she had dreamed of. They moved into Alex's opulent mansion, but instead of feeling like a queen, Erimma felt like a prisoner in her own home. Alex wasted no time asserting his dominance over Erimma, ordering the maid to separate her belongings and relegating her to a different room without explanation. When Erimma dared to question his actions, Alex's response was swift and brutal, a harsh slap across her face, a stark reminder of her place in his world. Tears streaming down her cheeks, Erimma retreated to her room, her heart heavy with despair. She had hoped that marriage would bring her happiness and security, but instead, it had become a nightmare from which she couldn't wake up. The next morning, Erimma was jolted awake by the sound of Alex's voice, his tone cold and commanding. Without a moment's hesitation, he slapped her awake, his words dripping with disdain. "Why are you still sleeping, you poor thing?" he sneered. "Get up and start your chores. I want my breakfast ready by 7 a.m. and make sure you are presentable while you are at it." Erimma, trembling with fear and confusion, dared to ask Alice why he was being so cruel. But his response was as callous as ever, a chilling reminder of the power he held over her. "You belong to me," he spat, his voice laced with malice, "and I will do with you as I please." From that day forward, life at Alex's mansion became a living nightmare for Erimma. She was treated more like a servant than a wife, forced to toil from dawn to dusk. enduring Alex's wrath with every step she took. If Anna or Ufoma called to check on her, Erimma would lie through her tears, putting on a brave front to shield them from the harsh reality of her situation. She prayed fervently for Alex to change, for their marriage to become the loving partnership she had always dreamed of. But with each passing day, her hope dwindled, replaced by a suffocating sense of despair. Alex's cruelty knew no bounds. He would berate her for the slightest mistake, his words cutting like knives, his fists raining down on her with merciless force. And yet, amidst the pain and the fear, Erimma clung to a silver of hope, praying for a miracle to set her free from the prison of her own making. As the months dragged on, Erimma's life became a living hell at the hands of Alex. His cruelty knew no bounds. She endured relentless beatings, collapsed from the pain, and bore the bruises and injuries inflicted on her with silent agony. But despite the physical and emotional toll, Erimma remained trapped in a nightmare from which she couldn't wake up. One day, unable to bear the torment any longer, Erimma mustered the courage to confront Alex about his cruelty, but her defiance only fueled his rage, and he unleashed his fury upon her with even greater ferocity, leaving her battered and broken on the floor. To add insult to injury, Alex brazenly brought other women into their matrimonial home, flaunting his infidelity without remorse. Erimma, powerless to stop him, could only watch in silence, her spirit crushed under the weight of his tyranny. Desperate for help, Erimma reached out to her best friend Anna, confiding in her about the horrors she endured behind closed doors. But before she could finish her plea for help, Alex overheard her and unleashed his wrath upon her once again, seizing her phone and locking her away in a room, cutting her off from the outside. Alarmed by Erimma's distress call, Anna wasted no time in seeking help from Ufoma, Erimma's mother. Together, they rushed to Alex's mansion, their hearts heavy with fear for Erimma's safety. Upon arrival, they were met with a chilling sight. The mansion quiet, with no sign of Alex or Erimma. Frantic, they turned to the maid for answers, only to learn that Alex had left town, leaving Erimma locked away in her prison of despair. Without hesitation, Anna and Ufoma sprang into action, determined to rescue Erimma from her tormentor's clutches. With sheer determination, they broke down the door to the room where Erimma was imprisoned, their hearts pounding with fear and anticipation. As they rushed Erimma to the hospital, her body battered and bruised, she found solace in finally being free from Alex's grip. Through tears and pain, she recounted the horrors she had endured, vowing never to return to that house of horrors again. With Ufoma's unwavering support and Anna's steadfast friendship, Erimma began to rebuild her shattered life, finding strength in the love and compassion of those who stood by her side. And as she looked to the future, she knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, she would never again allow herself to be silenced or subdued by fear. Few weeks later, Erimma found herself caught in a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty. When Alex returned and learned of what had transpired in his absence, his facade of contrition was but a thin veil over his true nature, a heart consumed by cruelty and malice. With feigned remorse, he approached Ofoma, Erimma's mother, with hollow promises of change, hoping to manipulate her into believing that he was a changed man. Ofoma, burdened by the weight of responsibility for her family's welfare, felt torn between her daughter's safety and the looming threat of Alex's wrath. With a heavy heart, she urged Erimma to return to Alex and give him another chance, fearing the consequences of defying him. But deep down, she knew that her daughter deserved better, that no one should have to endure the torment inflicted by a man consumed by his own demons. Reluctantly, Erimma agreed to return to the mansion, her heart heavy with apprehension and dread. She prayed fervently that Alex would keep to his word, that he would refrain from unleashing his violent temper upon her once more. But her hopes were dashed when, within days of her return, Alex's facade crumbled, revealing the true extent of his cruelty. In a fit of rage, he unleashed his fury upon Erimma, his blows raining down upon her with merciless force. She cried out in pain, her body battered and bruised, as she fought to endure the onslaught of his wrath. But amidst the chaos and the pain, a flicker of defiance ignited within her, a determination to break free from the chains that bound her to this house of horrors. Thankfully, Anna, ever vigilant, rushed to Erimma's aid, her unwavering support serving as a beacon of hope in the darkness. Together they fled the mansion, seeking refuge in the safety of the outside world. With Anna's guiding hand, Erimma found herself in the hospital, her injuries tended to with care and compassion. As she lay in her hospital bed, her body racked with pain, Erimma made a solemn vow to herself to never again allow herself to be subjected to the tyranny of Alex's reign. With a steely resolve, she resolved to seek justice for the crimes he had committed against her. Armed with the evidence she had secretly recorded, Erimma bravely stepped forward and pressed charges against Alex, determined to hold him accountable for his actions. And as the wheels of justice began to turn, Alex was arrested. His reign of terror finally brought to an end. But the road to freedom was not without its challenges. As Erimma navigated the legal process, she found herself confronted by doubts and fears, haunted by the memories of the horrors she had endured. But with the unwavering support of her family and friends, she found the strength to persevere, knowing that justice would soon be served. In the end, it was Alex's own father who came to Erimma's rescue, appalled by his son's actions and determined to right the wrongs he had committed. With his help, Erimma was able to break free from the shackles of her past, reclaiming her life and her future. As she looked back on the journey she had traveled, Erimma couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in how far she had come. Through the darkest of times, she had found the courage to stand up for herself, to fight for justice, and to reclaim her freedom. And as she stepped confidently into the future, her heart filled with hope and determination, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them head on, with courage and grace. For she was Erimma, a survivor, a warrior, and a beacon of hope for all who had suffered in silence. The moral lesson from this story is that patience is a powerful virtue, and making impulsive decisions can lead to grave consequences. Erimma's journey teaches us the importance of remaining patient in the face of adversity. even when things seem hopeless. Furthermore, the story emphasizes the importance of prioritizing one's safety and well-being above all else. Erimma's decision to leave her marriage, despite the threat and intimidation from her husband, demonstrates the importance of recognizing when a situation becomes life-threatening and taking action to protect oneself. In doing so, Erimma shows us the strength and courage it takes to walk away from a toxic situation and start anew. Thank you for watching this amazing story about Erimma on African Stories. If you liked it and felt inspired with her journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.